with a showdown, folks. A showdown tonight in Florida with the guy who wants to be the face of a post-Trump GOP making his case to his state in the next couple hours as voters there start to hit the polls. Ahead, why our poll shows half of America thinks the other half is going to destroy the country with divisions we haven't seen since the Civil War. Plus, hospitals across the country at their breaking point. No joke, after this huge outbreak of different respiratory diseases. COVID, the flu, plus RSV. We'll talk about why some parents are worried their kids might not be able to get the help they need. And 2 people dead tonight after a shooting in a St. Louis classroom. The details we're learning now about what happened when the shooter opened fire. Plus, Kanye West, he's running out of allies. After anti-Semitic remarks, he says he doesn't regret why his agent, his attorney, his advertisers say now is the last straw. And can NASA really identify UFOs? Well, maybe now that there's some cash behind it, why the agency is putting up real money to find out what we think is out there later on in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and it is good to be back with you, especially with just 15 days until voting ends in the midterms. Our polls showing Americans, all of us, we are legit raring to go to cast ballots, okay? More enthusiastic, apparently, than ever before. 70% of us want to make sure we get our voices heard. And in states like Florida and Texas, you can starting today, where early voting is beginning now. So think about that. Why are people so ready to get out there and cast a ballot? Might be out of fear, because our numbers also show that 4 out of every 5 people think the other side is an existential threat to America that'll destroy the country with their agenda. And President Biden, he's not shying away from that kind of framing at a presidential pep talk at the DNC, the Democratic Party's engine room today. Watch.
Everybody wants to make it a referendum, but it's a choice between 2 vastly different visions for America.
Stakes are also high for 2 governors up for re-election, each making a case to be the next face of the Republican Party, who may have eyes on the White House. There they are, Florida's Ron DeSantis, Texas's Greg Abbott. In the next hour or so, you're going to see DeSantis debate his Democratic opponent, former Governor Charlie Crist, for the only time before Election Day. And DeSantis doesn't just want to win, he wants to crush. No governor has won in Florida by more than a point since 2006. But now DeSantis may be running away to a double-digit win. You know who the last guy was to do that? Jeb Bush. Same kind of thing over in Texas, where Governor Abbott is sprinting out ahead of Democrat Beto O'Rourke. But there are some questions about whether Abbott is really conservative enough for a Trump GOP, with one strategist telling the Washington Post that the governor is adjusting to a new reality. We're going to hear from Priscilla Thompson, who's live on the ground for us in Texas in just a second. But I want to start with Hallie Vitale, who's posted up in Fort Pierce, Florida. So debate night happening tonight, a matter of hours away, Hallie, not even. And for DeSantis, this is about not just the midterms, but potentially beyond the midterms, a possible presidential run. Help us understand how to think about tonight, what you're hearing about the landscape there.
Well, Hallie, I love the parallel that you make between Jeb Bush, former Florida governor, who used that as a springboard into a later presidential run in 2016. We know how that went. But this time for DeSantis, he's trying to do effectively the same thing here, leveraging the power that he's amassed as the governor of Florida into whatever comes next for him, which is the likely 2024 presidential race that feels like it's all on our minds and is right around the corner, even though we haven't even gotten through the midterms yet. And it's on voters' minds, too. As I've asked people about it, they are thinking about what it could mean for DeSantis, but what it also might mean for another Florida native who might be throwing his hat back in the ring, President Donald Trump. Listen. What happens if it's DeSantis versus Trump in 2024?
I don't think that'll happen. I don't think it is, but if it did happen, I'd have to vote for DeSantis because he would have a great chance of winning.
By that voter's reasoning, Hallie, and I've heard this over the course of the last year and a half as I've been covering different conservative gatherings across the country, is the thinking is that DeSantis may be a better candidate simply because he's got less baggage. At least that's what this voter told me, and it matches with what I've heard from people in dozens of other places over the course of the last year and a half.
What's so interesting about Florida, Hallie, is a couple of dynamics here. I think people think of it, you look back to like 2000 when maybe people were just starting to pay attention to politics, just getting old enough, maybe. Really super swingy state.
Yeah.
But you look now, the number of registered Republicans has now overtaken the number of registered Democrats for the first time. And you also have the Florida GOP making some inroads with the state's Hispanic population. There's some new polling out from Telemundo with us showing Governor DeSantis has a 56% approval rating among Hispanics. I will always say the disclaimer, which is that doesn't mean all people who are Hispanic do not vote in the same way, right? Like, it doesn't tell us how Latinos in another state may vote. But it is an interesting data point as I think Republicans look at this really important state and Democrats maybe start to feel it slipping away.
And that's exactly right, especially when you start talking about the Hispanic voting bloc that Democrats have relied on in large part over the course of the last few years, watching Republicans make inroads there, whether it was Rick Scott in 2018 or Ron DeSantis now. And then, of course, that's nothing to say of Trump in 2016 and 2020. It's something that Democrats are watching closely, and they're watching nervously because, look, Florida is still a swing state in that the margins here tend to be really tight. When DeSantis won in 2018, I know because I was stuck here for a few extra weeks, it went to an automatic recount because it was less than a 0.5% margin. You and I were talking all through that. This is a state where even though Republicans have been coming out on top, it's still a place with very tight margins when they do so. DeSantis probably trying to buck that trend. The polls show he's in good position to do it, but nevertheless, it still makes election nights pretty exciting here.
Hallie, Vitaly, and debate night, too, for sure. Just a matter of hours away. Thank you. Let's go to Priscilla Thompson now in Katy, Texas, which is just outside Houston. And when we talk about we talked about enthusiasm for voters here. And again, we are just about 2 weeks out from the midterms. You can see Republicans in Texas really big on immigration, right? Border security, the economy. Democrats, it's abortion, it's gun policy, it's election laws. I wonder if you're seeing these numbers kind of break out with the people that you're talking to, Priscilla, in Texas there as early voting is beginning.
Yeah, Hallie, those numbers are definitely bearing out in the conversations that I've had with around a dozen voters today. And what I'm hearing from supporters of Governor Greg Abbott is that he is not perfect. He has definitely done things that they wish he had handled better, like the failure of the electricity grid during that winter freeze and like the shooting in Uvalde. But that overall, when it comes to the issues that are top of their mind, which they have mentioned to me is inflation, is immigration, is crime. Those are issues that they feel like Abbott is going to be the better candidate on. But if you talk to Democrats who are supporting Beto O'Rourke, it's a completely different picture. They're talking to me about abortion. They're talking about the need to protect democracy. I want to play some of the conversations that I've had here today. Take a listen.
The manner in which Texas has dealt with the issue of abortion is appalling as far as I'm concerned, and you have to make a statement about something.
I'm really worried about all these people coming across. We don't know who they are. We don't know if they're sick. We don't know if they're criminals.
But at the end of the day, a lot of this is going to come down to turnout and turnout in these specific areas that these candidates need to win. And it's why Beto O'Rourke today is out in the Dallas-Fort Worth area continuing to campaign and try to pick up those votes. And Governor Greg Abbott is also out in San Antonio today doing the same thing as they look to this countdown to Election Day. Hallie?
We saw that gap between Governor Abbott and Beto O'Rourke, both big names in their respective parties, and it is a decent-sized gap. It is double digits. But let me pull up a graphic showing the suburban area where you're at right now, Fort Bend County, for people who don't know. And you see over the course, the last roughly 10 years, a shift, right, toward Democrats. It's that kind of suburban, like, anti-Trump coalition that Democrats really relied on the last couple of elections. It feels like that is really O'Rourke's only shot at making this truly competitive in this governor's race.
Absolutely. And we've seen him campaigning in these areas and also really making the push among college students. And if you look at 2018, when both Abbott and O'Rourke were on the ballot, you saw Beto O'Rourke beat Ted Cruz by around 12 points in the Senate race, and Abbott narrowly win the governorship in this county by less than 500 votes. And that is indicative of that shift that we are seeing here. But the other thing that is important is that while the suburbs may be trending blue, Republicans are picking up ground in places like South Texas near the border, which have historically been Democratic strongholds. But you saw former President Trump there this weekend hosting a rally. There are 3 very competitive congressional races in that area that we're not seeing in these suburbs. And that could mean bigger turnout to boost Republicans in this election. Hallie?
Priscilla Thompson, live for us in Katy. Priscilla, thank you. To a metaphorical 5-alarm fire now, right, at children's hospitals around the country that are strapped. They are stretched. They are just about maxed out. And we're talking everywhere. Look at this map. Some states with hospitals at more than 90% capacity, packed with kids getting sick. Okay, sick kids from what medical experts describe as a triple-demic. 3 really serious respiratory problems, starting with RSV, okay, feels like it's everywhere, not great for infants. Then there's the flu, spreading so much that one high school in Virginia had 1,000 students call out sick. Then there's COVID. You know COVID. Only 19 million Americans have gotten the Omicron-specific booster. That's just 6%. President Biden's getting his tomorrow in a push to try to get more people protected. I want to bring in Gabe Gutierrez in Providence, Rhode Island. And Gabe, I'll tell you, we talk a lot on this show about, like, what's in the group chats, right? This is all over mine. Kids with RSV, hospitals that are packed. In D.C., Washington Post is reporting the Children's Hospital here, Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, they are getting strapped. Doctors are saying, bring your sick kids in. Obviously, we can care for them. Doesn't mean they're going to get a bed. And where you are, you've got some children's hospitals that are shutting down altogether for other reasons.
Yeah, Hallie, look, it's a big problem across the country, and some areas are dealing with it more than others, but really many parts of the country are dealing with this right now, but perhaps none more so than the Northeast. Here in Rhode Island, 97% of pediatric hospital beds are full, Hallie. That's according to the numbers reported to HHS. And this hospital where I'm at right now, Hasbro Children's Hospital in Providence, it's operating at 125% capacity.
Wow.
Now, what that means, Hallie, is that basically they have so many children in the emergency department that if they need to be admitted for any reason, they are waiting quite some time while they wait for a bed to open up. So, yes, this hospital here in Rhode Island, 125% capacity. You mentioned that this problem is getting worse also throughout the country because over the past several years, some pediatric units in several parts of the country and here in the Northeast and New England have also closed. And so that's all putting a strain on the system right as we're, coming out of COVID and then heading into this winter where COVID is still around. But as you said, RSV and the flu expected to converge into this triple threat, Hallie.
What's so interesting here, Gabe, is why this is happening right now, because there's 2 pieces to the problem here. One is the kids getting sick initially. Then it's the kids getting so sick they've got to go to these hospitals that are strapped to the max. Part of this is that many of these kids, right, and again, I know this very deeply and personally, have lived little COVID lives for the last couple of years, right, with a lot of people in masks around them. That is changing this fall. So they are now being exposed. I've talked to medical experts. It's like life's germ buffet is just out there, and they're getting slammed.
It's the perfect storm. Perfect storm, Hallie, and they're getting hit with this all at once. That's right. Their immune system had not seen these types of respiratory viruses. And Hallie, RSV, as you know, is extremely common. Excuse me, it's extremely common. And, parents are used to dealing with this in pre-pandemic years. The problem is that the healthcare workers I'm talking to, even the ones that have been doing this for more than 20 years, they say they have not seen these numbers all at once, Hallie. I mean, here in the pediatric ICU, half of the patients at this hospital have RSV, and they're coming in sooner, as you know, as you've been reporting. Typically, this peaks in February. Right now, we're in October. They don't know where these numbers are going to go. And earlier this year, they had been starting to see an uptick in this in the summer. But now, as we head into winter, you're right. This is something that, potentially was very common in years past. But now what the problem is that this is all hitting at once, Hallie.
The other piece, and what I've heard from doctors too, and I know you've heard this, is if you're sick, stay home. That's a good preventative measure. But right now, our friends at CNBC are finding that more people are feeling the pressure to go to work sick, right? Because of things like maybe they don't have enough sick days, recession fears. The pandemic is quote unquote over, so there's maybe less acceptability in a workplace culture to call out sick, et cetera. That is really adding to the challenge here too.
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. But, what health officials are saying, what they are stressing for adults and for their children is to make sure that your vaccines are up to date. You mentioned President Biden getting his Omicron booster tomorrow. Now, these are the symptoms for the 3 different types of respiratory illnesses that we've been discussing. They're very similar, but, RSV, there's a wheezing associated with it. Notice that if you have young children. But for those that are eligible to get a COVID vaccine, those older than 6 months, health officials are saying make sure those vaccinations are up to date because that can prevent them for those diseases, flu and from COVID, from perhaps coming to the hospital. There is, of course, no vaccine for RSV, and now they're seeing so many cases of RSV here. It's going to be tough to get a bed this winter.
Huge issue. Gabe Gutierrez, I'm glad you're on top of this story for us. Thank you for your reporting on it. We are just learning now the name of one of the victims of a deadly shooting at a St. Louis high school today. 2 people were killed. 8 others were sent to the hospital. The shooter also was killed after exchanging gunfire with police. One of the victims has now been identified by her daughter. Here she is, Jean Kushka. She's a health teacher at Central Visual and Performing Arts High School. Her profile on the school's website says she had 7 grandkids. And as you can tell by this photo, she was an avid bicycle rider. It comes as we're getting some chilling new details about what happened inside that high school today. Listen to one freshman describing what went down in class.
We all had to jump out the window.
So you jumped out the window to get out?
Mm-hmm.
What was going through your head at that point?
That I need to stay alive.
Now, have you processed actually what happened this morning at your school?
Police got there right as the day was beginning, just after about 9 a.m., after getting reports that a shooter with a so-called long gun was in the school. Kathy Park is joining us now. So we know one of the victims, Kathy. We know the other victim was a teenage girl. What is next for this investigation? What else are you hearing?
Yeah, Hallie, so another tragic day here in the U.S., shaken by a shooting inside a school. And as you mentioned, this all happened as the school day was getting underway. And a lot of students and witnesses say they heard gunshots. And initially they thought it was a drill, but it wasn't. And there were calls of an active shooter, and police got those calls. They were on campus in a matter of minutes. They were able to engage with the suspect, and there was an exchange of gunfire, and the gunman was shot and later taken to the hospital where he died. But, Hallie, there are still so many questions tonight about how this individual got inside the school, because earlier today, the police chief said, look, all the doors were locked and there were 7 security officers on site. Right now, they're not releasing the identity of this suspect, and we still don't know how he's connected with the school.
You know, the mayor and police chief talked about how difficult today was, how heartbreaking it was, of course. And I think you frame it, Kathy, appropriately, like another day in an American school in this country. We are hearing some stories of survival. We heard from that one student. And it's just, you want to say that it's unimaginable to think that these kids have to go through it, but we can imagine it because this is America and this is tragically what happens here.
Yeah, so many stories are emerging now of survival, and so many students and staff thought when they heard these gunshots, this was just a drill, but it wasn't a drill. But sadly, Hallie, the reality is these folks are trained to deal with active shooter situations, so they were able to react quickly. We heard from one student who said that a teacher pushed lockers right in front of the doors to protect the students in the classroom. And you heard a student there, that freshman, saying that he had to jump out of a window to escape the gunman. So many tragic stories, but a really terrifying day for students and staff at that high school.
Kathy Park, thank you. To New York now, where it is day 1 of jury selection in the criminal tax fraud trial against the Trump Organization. And you know what you saw today? Dozens of potential jurors trying to get out of it. Right, saying they're biased for one side or the other. Prosecutors are accusing the Trump Organization of a 15-year scheme to basically pay top executives off the books to help them avoid paying taxes. And the star witness? This guy, the company's former CFO, Alan Weisselberg. He's already pleaded guilty to 15 tax fraud charges around the Trump Organization's business dealings. But he's hoping to avoid a really long time in prison by testifying in this case. Keep in mind here, folks, former President Trump has not been charged, okay? He is not charged in this. He says this whole thing is a politically motivated witch hunt. If convicted, the Trump Organization would face like a $1.6 million fine. Tom Winter is joining us now. And a couple of things. Let me start with what's next and then what we saw. Because a lot of this trial is going to center around Weisselberg, who we just saw, who got all kinds of alleged perks from this scheme, is now flipping on his company to avoid more prison time.
Well, that's exactly right, Hallie. And so it's kind of a very unusual case. First off, we have a company being charged the same way that a person would be, and from a criminal sense. And then we have the person who is alleged to have benefited, to have conveyed some of these benefits to themselves, to have not filed the actual paperwork. Because remember, as you said, he's the former CFO of the Trump Organization, testify against the organization that he was working at while he was allegedly doing all this stuff. So it's just a very kind of unusual and bizarre turn of events. If it doesn't quite compute, you're not the only one. So this is somebody who is now going to say all those things that you're accusing the Trump Organization of doing that I was doing at the same time. Yes, in fact, that's what occurred. So when you say star witness, it's kind of like the key witness to the whole thing. And of course, so much of this is also based on documents, filings, financial records, all the things that the Manhattan DA's office fought so long for, including 2 trips to the Supreme Court. So they really have a lot of evidence stacked against the Trump organization, which has said in the past, as you said, that they did not do anything wrong criminally here. Hallie?
Talk to me about jury selection, because it's been so interesting to see the notes coming in from court today. Like, New York's a big place, but you think it's a real small town by how many people or know the prosecutor or associated with the Trump org, or like the school that Weisselberg's grandkids go to. You know, I've sat through jury selection, like personally on myself. You've sat through it, I'm sure. Like, the judge always says, you know, can you be unbiased? Can you be impartial, even if you have connections? Talk us through how they expect to find, like, the 12 to 15 people who are going to sit on this jury.
Right. Our colleague Adam Reese has been sitting through all of this today since it really began in earnest around 10:30 this morning. And Hallie, I've sat here as a potential juror before in this very courthouse behind me in a criminal trial. What happens is you get called into a big room. There's about 100, 130 of you, in this case 130 today. And then from there, you fill out a questionnaire. If you make it through that process, then you talk to the lawyers and you answer questions in the jury box. You get called in series of groups. And sometimes you can speak to the judge at sidebar and talk to them and say, hey, I might have a conflict. I might have an issue. If it's a personal reason, you don't want that in front of the court, or you might have to answer questions if you have any sort of connections to the defendant, they say. And yes, to your point, that's why today we figured out that there were so many people that have some sort of tie to this case. We also have a number of people that said, look, there's no way in any way you can look at this that I'm going to give the Trump organization a fair trial. And those are people that obviously aren't going to be picked for this jury. They're out of here today.
I'm sure they're not upset about it. Just before we go, I think it's important to lay out the context. We made really clear at the top of the segment, Donald Trump is not charged, folks. Donald Trump is not charged here. But this is one of 5 separate investigations into the former president or his organizations, most of them criminal, one civil. And this case that you're talking about here kind of stands apart, because it's not like if the Trump org is found guilty here, it shuts down all these other things. Those things are running on separate tracks.
Oh, that's 100% correct, and it doesn't even shut down the Trump organization. New York state law does not provide a mechanism for the dissolution of a company. So, in other words, they can't be forced to sell off their assets or to shut their doors. That's just not going to happen here. The maximum fine is $1.5 million. That's the highest that they could get if they're convicted. So, yeah, they are looking at other legal exposure, and some of that legal exposure, Hallie, might be a lot more damaging to them.
Tom Winter, good to see you. Thank you, friend. I'm sure you'll keep us posted on this one as the weeks go on. You know what else we're going to stay posted on? The drama, the hot drama, and, like, frankly, just chaos over at 10 Downing Street, because today the UK is getting a new prime minister. Rishi Sunak, okay, former banker, former ex-finance minister, stepping up to the plate with a lot of work ahead. And we don't have to talk around it. He's got a mess to clean up, man. He has a mess to clean up. Today, he's saying he's up for the job. He's going to be ready. He's the guy, he says, to bring in some much-needed stability.
There is no doubt we face a profound economic challenge. We now need stability and unity, and I will make it my utmost priority to bring our party and our country together.
The UK is dealing with all sorts of economic issues here, concerns about recession, inflation, and this whole prime minister thing came together kind of fast after Boris Johnson over the weekend said he'd be out, and Sunak's only other opponent didn't get enough support from lawmakers. Actually getting this job is a big turnaround for him. Just 7 weeks ago, he lost out to the previous prime minister, Liz Truss. Blink if you missed her prime ministership, right? Which makes Sunak now the 3rd prime minister in the UK in a matter of weeks, really. In the midst of all the political chaos, the cost of living crisis, you know, inflation is now at 10% there, the highest that the Brits have seen in decades. Keir Simmons is joining us now, and, like, boy, why do you want this job, Keir? I mean, like, Rishi Sunak, make it clear he's up for it, but, like, it is not going to be easy, and it's not going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, if you like your politics, though, it's fairly entertaining, I guess. I mean, aside from the fact that it's, you know, kind of serious and
lives at risk and money and people's career. Yeah, you know, I mean, this is big stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. Look, Rishi Sunak has a mountain to climb. He is 42 years old, the youngest prime minister here in more than 200 years. He is at the same time very smart. He went to Oxford and Stanford, and he understands the British economy very well. He was the finance minister. We call him the chancellor here in the UK. So he has the chops, if you like, to do the job. But then again, he he has this huge political challenge because, as you mentioned, he is the latest Prime Minister for the Conservative Party. Now, that's the way it works here, Hallie. You know, you elect the party here, not the leader, and the party gets to choose its different leader if it wants to. That's the constitutional system, but there are many people calling for a general election now.
What's interesting, too, is that the background that Sunak has, right? Because you talked about his background in finance. He's the ex-finance minister. He's making history as the first person of color to be prime minister, first person of British Asian descent. He's really wealthy. I think he and his wife are worth something like $800 million plus, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is more than some estimates of King Charles and Camilla, right? Like, this is a very interesting person at a very interesting time.
Yeah, I don't know about that number. I mean, the last time I checked, Rishi Sunak and his wife don't hang out in palaces. So I think there needs to be a little more fact-checking there. But you're right, people are saying
we literally fact-checked it before the show. I just want you to know that. I knew you were going to know. I said to the team, I was like, we got to get this right for Keir. All right, I'm just saying, he's worth a lot of money. The dude has a lot of money he's sitting on. He's wealthy, and he's taken on this big job. It's just an interesting thing.
I think we can agree on that. He is wealthy. And the question is whether or not a leader of a country that is facing potential tax rises, spending cuts, increases in bills, is that the guy that can really lead the people here through all of that? One thing you mentioned, and it shouldn't be forgotten, it is incredible, it is important that he will be the first person of colour to walk through that door as Prime Minister. It'll be a real shame if that achievement is kind of lost in all of the politics and the challenges. But, you know, the challenges are real. We haven't even mentioned in this conversation the Ukraine crisis. I mean, the challenges are a big deal, and that is why many people are saying there should be a general election. Yeah, look, that is why many, particularly on the opposition, are saying there should be a general election here. Paradox, though, if that did happen, that would mean more instability, which you could argue is exactly what the White House would not want to see here in Europe. You could easily argue Europe has enough instability as it is.
I'm going to end this discussion like we started here. This is serious stuff, right? You know, people's lives, livelihoods, their money, their there's a lot on the line here. I'm glad you're there for us. Thank you for breaking it down for our U.S. largely audience. Appreciate it, Keir. Coming up here on the show, opening arguments starting in L.A. today in Harvey Weinstein's sex crimes trial. What we know now about who's going to testify this time around. Plus, Senator Lindsey Graham off the hook for now to have to testify in a Georgia prosecutor's election investigation. The Supreme Court justice who okayed that temporary hold and why it's causing such an uproar in D.C. later on. Prosecutors today starting off Harvey Weinstein's trial in L.A. by reading quotes from his accusers, with these women recalling alleged assaults. One saying, "I was scared that if I didn't play nice, something could happen in the room or out of the room because of his power in the industry." Another quote, "I told him to stop. I told him to leave the bathroom, and he didn't. He just kept going towards me." Weinstein is facing 11 counts of rape and sexual assault involving 5 women between 2004 and 2013. He's pleaded not guilty. And if you're thinking, well, wait a second, didn't Harvey Weinstein already do a sex crimes trial? He is already serving a 23-year sentence for rape and sexual assault after getting convicted in New York back in 2020. That has already happened. This trial, the one in L.A., right, Hollywood producer coming back to L.A. now, should take about 6 weeks. 9 men, 3 women on the jury. The accusers are expected to take the stand. I want to bring in Maura Barrett, who joins us now. And I wonder how you can lay out for us and frame the way that both sides presented their openings today. What can we expect to see over the course of the next month?
Well, Hallie, according to the pool reporter in court today, the courtroom was absolutely packed, I think to no one's surprise because of the attention on the case. The prosecution laid out their plan this morning, and the defense is still ongoing as it's still afternoon here in Los Angeles. It's notable, though, that Harvey Weinstein has a different defense team here in L.A. than he did in New York, and so we'll get those updates later this evening. But as for the prosecution, they laid out a picture depicting what we'll hear from several women and pointing out many themes of commonality reality, using very descriptive graphic imagery in some of those quotations you saw there, laying out the commonalities between women who described fear because of Harvey Weinstein's size, and a lot of commonalities between his alleged tactics, saying that he would often isolate women in the bathroom, that he would often utilize his power both physically but also his stature in Hollywood to force people into doing what he wanted because he would hold their career over them. And a lot of the women faced a lot of the same situations. And so that's a lot of what we'll hear. And prosecutors described forced rape, sexual assault, forced oral sex, forced women who said that Weinstein forced them to watch him masturbate. And despite all of these very graphic descriptions, the court reporter said that Weinstein didn't show much reaction as all of this was laid out in court today.
I think we're also expecting to see more women testify in this LA trial than in Weinstein's first trial in New York, yeah?
Yeah, the DA's office said that they'll bring originally 9 women who have accused Harvey Weinstein of various sexual assault charges. We did hear him introduce 8 women today. Many of them will be known as Jane Doe, as they wish to be held anonymous. But we do know that Jennifer Siebel Newsom will be one of the women testifying. She's currently the California Governor Gavin Newsom's wife, but she's also a documentary filmmaker who described herself crying and couldn't form words when she said that Weinstein raped her, but that she felt like she had to stay in touch with him after the fact. So we'll be hearing from a plethora of women who are both involved in this case as well as prior bad act witnesses, which experts say will help the prosecution paint a picture of Weinstein's past wrongdoings and try to give that context. We'll also hear from a sexual assault doctor who has worked with thousands of victims to talk about sexual assault myths. And again, this is going to be in addition to dozens of witnesses over the next 6 weeks, which of course also comes at the same time that New York trial has been granted an appeal, which means that Weinstein's current conviction could be overturned, Hallie. So that's why we're seeing so much attention here.
A lot going on. More Barrett live for us in LA. Thank you. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, people on Mexico's Pacific coast are cleaning up tonight after Hurricane Roslyn made landfall, hitting between the popular tourist spots Puerto Vallarta and Mazatlan. Roslyn later weakened to a tropical storm, but still saw a ton of heavy rain, flash flooding. Look at people trying to clean up the debris, getting the dozers out there. It was deadly, too. 2 people were killed from unstable structures that collapsed during the storm. Number 2, a former Minneapolis police officer pleaded guilty today to aiding and abetting second-degree manslaughter in the killing of George Floyd. J. Alexander King took a plea deal right before jury selection was about to start in his trial. He's expected to serve 3.5 years at the same time as his federal sentence of 3 years for violating George Floyd's civil rights. Number 3, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas is temporarily putting on ice the testimony of Senator Lindsey Graham in the Georgia election interference investigation. It means Senator Graham is off the hook until the full Supreme Court decides on his basically request to reject the subpoena, or Thomas does. A grand jury is investigating possible election interference by former President Trump and his allies. A lot of people watching that one. Number 4, a new report today from this nationwide exam is showing just how bad the pandemic was on kids' learning. Okay, math scores this year saw their biggest declines ever. Reading scores are down to what they were in 1992. The National Assessment of Education Progress tests 4th and 8th graders across the country. It's the first time the test was given out since 2019. And again, the results are alarming to a lot of educators here. Number 5, a Michigan family missing for the past week, found 450 miles away from home in Wisconsin yesterday. The dad had called 911 saying that he needed police protection because people wanted to erase him from the face of the earth, he said, over information he apparently had about 9/11. Police say the family still thinks people are after them, but they don't meet the criteria for protective custody. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because you couldn't possibly read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. From our Midwest bureau, the teenager accused of killing 4 classmates and hurting 7 other people at a Michigan high school last fall has now pleaded guilty to all charges against him, including terrorism charges. His parents are going to stand trial on 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter in January. They're accused of ignoring warning signs that may have led to this mass shooting. Sentencing is expected to happen sometime next year. Out of our Southeast Bureau, new video, check this out, shows police and an Amazon driver rescuing 3 people from this car that's like, look, it's like stuck upside down. It's filling with water. This is at a canal in Florida. A deputy says he was responding to another call when somebody flagged him to this crash. He praised the quick response from people nearby and from other officers, saying one of the passengers would have definitely drowned without their help. 2 of the people were taken to the hospital with only minor injuries. Out of our West Coast Bureau, police in the Bay Area giving an update on that car found buried in the backyard of a $15 million estate. They are saying today that no human remains were found in the Mercedes. Officials say it belonged to somebody who previously owned the house, who reported the car stolen in 1992. That person died in 2015 after selling the house. He'd had a history of arrests for murder, attempted murder, and insurance fraud. Looks like Kanye West's anti-Semitic outbursts are burning more bridges, and not only in the fashion industry. Just today, we found out that a big Hollywood talent agency, CAA, dropped Ye, with the spokesperson for the company confirming that to our team in an email. Studio executives at Media Rights Capital say they're shelving a documentary about Kanye because they don't want to support any content that amplifies his platform. And remember how Johnny Depp's attorney, Camille Vasquez, was going to work with him? Multiple sources have confirmed to NBC News that's off the table, too. That's over. All of it, because of the anti-Semitic stuff that West has been saying, which he, kind of apologized for, but he also said he didn't regret making. So, not really an apology, right? You've had people putting up signs over the weekend reading, look at this, in L.A., Kanye is right about the Jews, and honk if you know, over the 405 freeway out there. That is hate speech. And the Anti-Defamation League says that the demonstration came from a group known for supporting anti-Semitism and white supremacist ideology. These are the consequences of words. NBC News has reached out to West reps. We haven't heard back. Jake Ward is joining us now. This goes well beyond buzzy gossip or a celeb headline, right? You've got the California governor's office that has had to come out and condemn anti-Semitism, which everybody should be doing, right? Because of the impact of what Ye has said in that state.
That's absolutely right, Hallie. I mean, I think the lesson of the last maybe decade has been, where once upon a time we thought that what you said online or said out in public were really just words. We're starting to learn that that's really not the case. Your online life and your real life really are closely aligned, especially when you have someone with the enormous influence of Kanye West saying these horrible things. I mean, you have, as you saw, protesters or whatever you want to call them out over the 405 freeway in Los Angeles openly saying Kanye West is right about the Jews. He is actually sort of given oxygen to what had been a hidden simmering fire. And that is, of course, why California Governor Gavin Newsom tweeted out, hateful words open the door to hateful actions. And even Kanye's ex, Kim Kardashian, tweeting out, hate speech is never okay or excusable. I stand together with the Jewish community and call on the terrible violence and hateful rhetoric towards them to come to an immediate end. Everybody seems to be fleeing Kanye at this moment, Hallie.
Well, and listen, call out hate speech, call out what it is, right? Call out anti-Semitism. And right now, it's all coming to a head for Kanye. We talked about the companies, the businesses at the top of the segment cutting ties. It feels like this has become, rightfully, a test of how much offensive and wrong behavior the companies are willing to tolerate from somebody who makes them a lot of money.
That's absolutely right. I mean, this person has been such an enormously influential figurehead for so many branding deals, and yet we have seen those deals implode since September. I mean, let's run back through everything that sort of has happened since then, right? He terminated his contract with The Gap, something that they had expected to sell more than $1 billion in merchandise. Then he shows up at the Paris Fashion Week in a White Lives Matter shirt, and all the fashion community begins to run for cover. Now, October 6th, Adidas says the partnership is under review. We're not quite clear what that means, but that's what they're saying. Balenciaga, which had been brought in to work with him on that Gap partnership and on a win tour, they cut ties, and now here we are with CAA, his representation, dropping him, and this planned documentary dropping him as well. You've got, everybody at this point cutting ties from him, except, of course, Adidas, which has this huge and extremely lucrative partnership with him, and that's the thing that still stands at this hour.
Talk to me about that, because I was going to have you jump back to that idea, right? Adidas, October 6th, saying the partnership is under review. The people really want him to drop Kanye at this point for the obvious reasons. What's up with that? What is the deal? What's the holdup?
It is really, I think at this point, just a question of money. I mean, the partnership that they have with his Yeezy brand is enormous and has sold, it's a multi-billion-dollar deal. And so I have no doubt that they are just, clicking through the dollars and cents trying to figure out if their brand can withstand the reputational harm here. But that reputational harm is deepening by the hour. We had the California Jewish Caucus speaking out directly to Adidas, calling it morally reprehensible and saying that if they continue going this way, way. They are party to anything else that stems from it. So now that we've had these protesters on the 405, we have all of these other houses cutting ties, and now you have, politicians coming out and naming Adidas outright, a German company, I would point out. I think it cannot be that much longer before they cut ties with this guy.
Jake Ward, thanks for staying on top of this for us. Appreciate it. Still to come here on the show, NASA's new study to try to figure out some of the weird stuff people are seeing in the sky. They're throwing money at it. We'll tell you what they're hoping to learn about what else may be out there next. Do you believe that ET is out there? Do you think there are UFOs? If you do, guess what? NASA is putting some real money behind trying to figure that out. They're starting this 9-month study, spending thousands of dollars to try to get to the bottom of this thing we've talked about a lot on this show. You've probably heard about a lot. UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. That's like, can we be honest what that is? That's the fancy government way of saying UFOs. Like, that's what it is. Things that fly. We don't know what they are. It's like the X-Files, but real life. Now, I mean, I jokingly say ET. NASA is not looking for, like, life forms, okay, not aliens, but they're trying to figure out these instances when people saw stuff like this in the sky that we couldn't explain. Wasn't like a shooting star or like a satellite or whatever. The whole point is to make it easier to study this stuff in the future and to try to figure out which events can be explained naturally, like, oh, that was an airplane, right? And which events cannot be explained at all. Why is this important? Intelligence officials say this actually really matters from like a national security perspective, because what if there's some rando thing flying in the air that we don't know could be a threat to national security or air safety? Tom Costello happens to cover all things air for us here as our one of our many hats that you wear. This is so interesting. NASA makes a point to say, like, they're not studying, they're not looking for little green men. They're not looking for aliens, right? So what is the expectation?
But if they find them...
That's going to be interesting if they do.
Yeah. Well, listen, here's the thing. They're looking at, they have 400 already. The Pentagon has 400 reports in its database. 400 reports. The dead things are credible enough to put them in the database.
Right.
Of these things you're looking at right here. That's a lot, right? And they're coming from credible sources, military pilots, and oftentimes more than one military pilot looking at the same thing. And you've got civilian pilots, and you've got PhDs, and all of them are looking at this saying, okay, something is up here. And now the photography is good enough, and as you can see, I mean, what the heck is that? Some of these items are moving so fast, and they're doing hairpin turns in the air. They're stopping on a dime, diving into the ocean, coming back up, going up towards space. What does that? We don't have any technology like that. You know, the fear had been, oh my God, what if the Russians or the Chinese have some sort of hypersonic capabilities that we're not aware of? Well, at this point, we're so far into the Russian war, most people think if they had it, they would have shown it already. They haven't yet. The Chinese, unlikely to have anything like that. So what is going on here? It's hard to tell, but they're going to look at airborne. They break these things down into the possibility of airborne clutter, a natural phenomenon somehow, U.S. assets. In other words, we have some vehicle flying around up there.
The DARPA theory, right?
Foreign objects, foreign assets, and then a big broad category called other.
Other.
Well, guess what other could be?
Right. Aliens.
Well, yeah, listen, you know, it's no longer considered to be out of...
I totally hear you on that.
You can say this now. You can raise the possibility.
As we say everything on this show. I have 30 seconds left, but I have to ask, like, scientists gather data and then analyze it. You can't, like, go out and gather data on UAPs. Right. It's such a small, limited data set anyway.
You only use unclassified information. That's all they can use right now, unclassified. It's a 16-panel committee that's going to be looking at this for NASA. I think there could be plenty of evidence that aliens are already among us. I mean, Mick Fleetwood, Justin Bieber, Al Roker. You know, I don't know. I'm just saying, your husband.
You're just happening to say it. I'm just going to let you say it right here.
I'm asking the question. That's all we do here.
Tough but fair, Tom Costello, as always. Thank you, friend. On that note, we'll leave it. I appreciate it. And thanks for being in all last week while I was out, on my sick bed.
They all wondered where you were.
Deeply appreciate you and all of you for watching, as always. That does it for this hour. I'm actually on assignment tomorrow, but I'll see you live from Florida on Wednesday. In the meantime, you'll be in very good hands. War coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.